God, it's been 2 months since I've spent time with you. Sorry, I've just really had a lot going on lately. That's an exact journal entry from my sophomore year of college. Over the years since I'd first come to Christ at the age of 16, my life had undergone immense change. I'd moved to a different state and begun college. I was trying to keep up with my new friend group and cradling a fragile romantic relationship that I had found myself in. Ever since I had graduated from high school, I'd let my intimacy with Christ slip away. Sometimes it would come back for a day or two if the chapel service in college was really hype, but for the most part, I was just too busy. At the time, the enemy wasn't making me fall into any grave sins, but he was successfully drawing me into every type of distraction. I can't give the enemy all the credit either. To be honest, other things seemed more important. In many situations, it was my own worldly desires that led me astray. Realistically, what's a girl to do, I thought? It's not like I can just drop all of my responsibilities, build a tiny house in the woods, and spend all of my days praying. So I assumed this was what life with God was like when you'd been a Christian for a while, a few spiritual highs here and there, and sporadic moments of catching up with him. I wasn't aware that I'd grown neither hot nor cold for God until a mentor and I met on our usual Tuesday lunch date. Don was a 93-year-old gentleman and a friend who had a weekly spot in my calendar. I enjoyed our time together very much. We would discuss faith and life and have friendly exchanges on various biblical topics. God chose to use Don as a vessel that day almost before I even sat down. He was led to ask me if my relationship with God was better than it had been the year before. A chuckle escaped me when I answered that maybe it would have been better this year if I'd been able to go to late night more often. Late night was a ministry at my college that played trending music and had homemade food. There was always a young speaker who delivered a convicting message. My dear friend looked at me with concern and spoke with years of knowledge when he said, "There is a problem if you are relying on other people to further your own walk with Christ." He went on to tell me about the time he spent in Kuwait as a missionary. Don explained how people there sacrificed their lives to follow Christ. They didn't have numerous resources available to them to help them grow. It was much more organic. They had the Bible, their community, and God. That's it. Yet Kuwaiti Christians made more of an impact than most Americans did, even with all of our conveniences. Don shared more of his brilliance between slurps of his chicken noodle soup. The real danger here is that a lot of people in this country pursue a self-centered view of the Christian life. We sat there talking in the cafeteria until the custodian signaled it was time to leave by dimming the lights. I was so intrigued. I had never realized that relying on others to further our own journey could be an issue. I thought I had to rely on others to stay a Christian in the first place. I sure didn't know how to do it on my own. As he sat there telling me about his life as a Christian and how each year had gotten better than the last, I felt a particular holy envy. Is that a thing? Stirring up inside my soul. I wanted to be that close with God. I wanted him to answer my prayers specifically. I wanted that closeness consistently. Don left me with a nugget of wisdom that changed how I saw everything. Jonni, carnal Christianity isn't Christianity at all. My friend Don was the first person I had ever known who had an ongoing passion for God. For years, we met in that cafeteria, and he would giddily tell me about what God had taught him in his quiet time the night before. My friendship with Don started me on a journey of exploring what a true passion for God looked like and how to stop being lukewarm once and for all. I no longer even wanted to be the girl in that old photo from the conference I had attended. That girl was only passionate because she was dependent on external circumstances to fire her up. I was determined to be better, a mature believer in Christ. I would be consistent in my walk with God if it truly mattered. Back then, being on fire for Jesus meant that I always felt passionately for him. I was led by my emotions rather than a genuine and unfailing commitment to him. I had been so focused on what he was doing for me in my life that I forgot to keep my gaze on his character and his overwhelming goodness. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with feeling positive emotions for Christ. The problem was this. By living in this passion-filled season for a prolonged period, I had never built a foundation of my faith in who Jesus is. I had never developed a come-what-may faith in him. A fresh encounter. In today's world, it's quite easy to fall into a rut. Maybe your past comes back to haunt you. Maybe your flesh overpowers your spirit and you fall into that old sin. Maybe you just aren't amazed by God's characteristics the way you used to be.